This is the Philanthropy Show, connecting and inspiring philanthropy.
Welcome to the Philanthropy Show. I'm your host, Louanne Saraga Walters. What if, by simply knowing yourself, you could have better relationships on your team, have better relationships at home, have better communication on your board? Is it possible? Why, yes, it is. Our guest today is Nastir, who is the founder of Innovative Team Solutions. And I love talking with her, and I know that you're going to really enjoy this show, because this is something that will not only help your nonprofit organization, not just you, whether you're a staff member or a CEO, executive director, whatever.
All levels.
Board member. It will also help your relationships in general, your family, your friends, everything. And it is about self-awareness. Thanks for coming on.
You are welcome. Thank you for
having me. And I am self-aware right now that I'm exceptionally happy that you're on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm excited too.
You know, you and I have just talked briefly about what you do, and I want to let you explain that a little bit more in this area, because it just seems to me that this is so vast that once you start down one path, talk about personal growth and development, it's huge. How did you become involved in this aspect of your journey?
Very eclectically. My background was in teaching the hearing impaired, and I did several different aspects in sales and marketing, and then I had heard about a coaching field when it was really just up and coming about 12 years ago, and I kept thinking about it, and then I went out to Denver, and there was a conference out there, and I fell in love with the people that were surrounding it, all the information that I was getting from it, and called my husband that night, and I said, I'm home. This is what I'm meant to be doing. And I transitioned into life executive coaching, did a lot of things there, and I'm just a lifelong learner. So I kept taking more and more classes, different certifications, and really synthesizing all the information together. But really, when I took a relationship systems coaching class, in being able to help people understand having different conversations about how to avoid the assumptions that we make about others, but learning more about ourselves and being able to turn the camera inwards, if you would.
Well, because what you're just saying is, if that reflection is essential for the harmony in the workplace.
Absolutely.
Or in your family life, wherever. But, so let's talk a little bit about that. Self-awareness and organizational development. How do those two go hand in hand?
Because as being personally aware is understanding your own strengths, where you really come to be your best, and as well as being aware of what your beliefs, your thought systems, and your weaknesses, because we all have the different aspects of us, the Achilles heels that can trip us up. When we bring that self and not fully aware into the workplace, we're just really looking at things through a narrow pathway. You know, one lens of how this is who we are and this is how we operate. When we really open up that space to realize that who we are and how our impact especially is on other people, that 9 out of 10 times people really don't go down that path to realize.
No, they don't.
And so we know how other people impact us, but it's raising that awareness of how we see the world, how we view others, and how we want to be seen in the workplace, and what do we want in our interactions? And is it working for us? Is it not working to our best?
Do you work with a lot of, do you see a lot of small businesses and organizations that already have some kind of, they're mired in some kind of a conflict, and you're coming in to try to help them figure out these essentials?
The dynamics? Yeah, a lot of times. I mean, it's bringing in the cohesiveness. I love saying that it's bringing positivity into the workplace. And, you know, there's so much research going on now about only internal happiness and the positivity aspect. But when you're going into a workplace and, you know, people are working together day in and day out, you know, there's assumptions that get formed. There's different alliances in the workplace that get formed. And it really is raising the awareness, and that's why my foundational piece is really going in and just, it's a beautiful way of just being able to say, hey, this is a style, we're not putting anyone in a box, but this is my come from, my DNA style. And how does it either complement your style, or how do we really start to see, ooh, this is where we're really different, and there's such juice there to be able to have eye-opening, different conversations than what people normally have.
And clearer conversations.
Right.
I think what this strikes in me, depending on your nonprofit, You may have a comfort zone with your communication process, and your team members have learned how to communicate, and they've learned what buttons not to push or whatever. Or you may have, the other end of the spectrum, or anything in between. And the reality is, we don't have, in the nonprofit sector, we don't have those types of corporate programs that offer many of those. Really, I've been in 3 different industries. I've been through some management training that's similar to the self-awareness that you're
Right.
talking about, but I don't think go as in depth as what I've seen in your programs,
Right.
which is fabulous that they do.
Well, thank you.
That you do. But what I think that this show can be beneficial for nonprofits and boards who are trying to struggle with all the different personalities that are on as well,
Right.
is to take a step back, and instead of going from the programmatic, which is about the organizations where it wants to go, you still want to go along that pathway, but all along that pathway, it's learning, number one, yourself
Right.
and how you react. And I'm talking around what I'm trying to figure out how I'm trying to say. I think that what I've seen in conflict from organizations is this person, I know what I'm feeling. I'm feeling anger because this person made me mad.
Right.
And that's where it stops. So what you're saying is, how do we go deeper?
It's learning the skills and the tools to be able to have ownership of our own feelings and to feel it, to realize you can step back from it a moment to say, can I take a time out for a second? I need to kind of get my head together to feel why this just doesn't feel right. And to be able to make some alliances and commitments, agreements with each other and how you can best work together. So it really is, it's a different conversation than people in the workplace normally have. Because we're used to just, we have a job to do, we come in, we need to be able to do everything.
And basically just stop, shut up and do it is the, kind of, I've got to stop, I've got to put my anger down.
Or what's happening over here,
Bury
why
it.
is he saying this? And then we start to have the little
Disintegration.
gossip that goes around, or people start to try to get people to be on their side, so it starts to infiltrate into the team, and it really is very destructive. So the best way is really being aware of how our impact is impacting ourselves and what we're doing and what we have capacity to change once we raise our own awareness, and then try something different.
You kind of need to have the buy-in from your team to participate in this, although
I have seen this time and time again where when they open up to being able to have someone come in and be able, it's a neutral person. So it's not something, and it is something that is presented in a way that is just normalized, and this is who you are. It's a fun
Well, that's what I was going to
time.
say. I think that if you have a team that's committed to it, if they're intentional about we all want to learn how to communicate better and we want to become more self-aware, that's fabulous, and that's like utopia.
Right.
But even if you only have 1 or 2 members who participate, that's utopia for them personally.
Oh, absolutely. I've had time and time again where people have come to me and said, just knowing this and just finding this out about myself, it answers so many different questions. This is why, and then they start talking about different relationships, whether it's with family members, how they're talking to their children at home, things they're seeing that they just really didn't have in their awareness before.
Wow. This is really big. It makes me think, too, about just your personal happiness level.
Absolutely.
And comfort zone of living with your own decisions as opposed to allowing your feelings to dictate where you're going.
Right.
I think one of the things that you said just a minute ago was about when you're self-aware, when you're aware that you're feeling one way, and that's like the first step. You have to stop being angry long enough to be aware that you're angry.
Right.
Or upset or confused or sad.
It's being able to pinpoint it. And it's really being able to be okay with what that is, and then look at, what is my intention for what I'm trying to resolve? You need to look at the end result. What do you really want? Is it worth picking your battles, in other words? And how can I come at this differently? Because boy, what I've been doing in the past, it's not working.
How does that help from an efficiency standpoint
Oh,
for
huge.
a team?
It totally, because once you can get rid of all that excess, I want to say the garbage stuff that is not helpful, then you can really get down to the productivity and what you want from each other and what the main goal is of whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's the team that's working together. But the ultimate is the people that you're serving, and you don't want people coming into your workplace and feeling the tension. And how many times have you gone in to an office or somewhere and you can just feel that something's a little bit tense, you know, and it's you want
the
it.
atmosphere.
It's the energy level.
Yeah.
We all have people that we just love to be around because they just, you know, they're positive and you just feel really good when you're with them. I call them the attic people that you really love being with, or there's just basement people who are just, there's a negativity about them and they just bring you down. So it's learning in the workplace, people who feel offended if you don't say hello to them first thing in the morning. And believe it or not, there's other people who say, I'm already here and working, just go by my office, don't tell me hello.
And you know, we have to take a quick break, but when I hear you talk about this, Ellen, too, I think, oh my gosh, I'd be so exhausted trying to figure out what everybody's thinking and feeling, but that's not what you're saying.
Not in the
You're
least.
saying more about first know yourself, and we're going to get to how do you do that.
Okay.
We're going to kind of go that direction in the second segment. We're going to take a quick break with the Philanthropy Show. We'll be right back after this break. Does this sound familiar? Do your friends and family keep telling you, get on Facebook? Or maybe you already are on Facebook, but you find yourself stuck, not quite sure what to do. I've been teaching social media for more than 6 years to entrepreneurs, small businesses, and nonprofits, and I've helped many of my friends who are themselves grandparents get set up and familiar with the basics of Facebook. I've been waiting for a class just made for grandparents and boomers to come along so I could pass it on to them. And then I realized, why am I waiting? So I reached out to a couple dozen or so of our grandparent friends, asking them, what are your main questions and frustrations around using Facebook? And that's what this course is all about. Using screen recordings like this one, I will walk you through the answers and also use markup tools to point out specific things that I think are important for those lectures. In addition, I've put together some documents for you that you can use as resource guides. You can print these or download them and access what you've just learned in the previous lecture or in the previous section. You can take this course at your own speed, skip to lectures that answer your main questions first, or take the lectures in order to build your knowledge base. So, are you ready to have fun and learn about this Facebook thing? Enroll today, and I'll see you in class. Enroll today at thephilanthropyshow.com. Welcome back to the Philanthropy Show. Talking today with Ellen Nastir of Innovative Team Solutions about how we can really improve the communication.
Absolutely.
Within our nonprofits, on our boards, in our homes. And this is something that we were talking in the first segment about how we can become so involved when we were talking about being aware of other team members and their responses,
Right.
that it could be a full-time job, just trying to keep aware of what everybody else is doing, but it starts with us. So
Right.
what does that mean to be self-aware? I mean, like I gave the example in the first segment. I know when I'm angry. I know when I'm confused. I know when I'm sad. But what does it mean to be self-aware?
Well, you'll be surprised at how many people aren't aware of when they are feeling an anger. They may feel an emotion, but they don't know exactly how to pinpoint what it is. So it's really being able to step back, and when you're discussing the different issues with them, they can say, wow, and it's like a light bulb that goes off when you're working with a group, and they all of a sudden are, that's why when I say this, you do that. That they can realize that. So when you're working just for yourself, if you're trying to figure that out, even if you just sit with a piece of paper, just in a quiet time, you know, get your cup of tea and just sit to reflect, whether it's journaling or whatever, but what are the triggers that set you off? When do you feel most content if we're talking in the workplace? What's the time of day that you feel most empowered, that you're really on your A game? Where is it that you start to, or what, who, you know, all of those different aspects that can really just unnerve you? And it really impacts the communication. We tend to make some assumptions about other people's actions and behaviors, but we don't always look at what other people's assumptions or impact may be by our actions. You know, a simple little sigh that has nothing to do with anyone in the office, but somebody who takes things personally, who has that dynamic within, they think it's about themselves. You
It's
know?
a filter.
It is. So it's what glasses do you have on, but the awareness level that you can raise is by really looking at your interactions with each other. There's a wonderful quote by Daniel Webster that I love that says that if all my possessions were taken from me, but for one exception, I would choose to keep the power of communication, for by it I would soon regain all the rest.
Oh, that's
so it's
neat.
how we're interacting with each other, how we're looking at our own facial expressions, how we look at our own body movements, the whole body language part. So when you're asking about just yourself, it's not picking at yourself, it's really being able to look at what are the really good strengths about myself, what do I really like, and wow, where do I get tripped up? What are my thoughts about this? And has it just been an assumption or a thought that I don't even know if it's true anymore?
You know, there's a bravery in doing that. It takes a courage to dive
Absolutely.
into that peeling of the onion that you're talking about. And in doing that, there's a freedom, you know, to take that step forward, to be courageous enough to say, and I liked your word discontent, because it may not be anger, it may not be frustration. You don't understand.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Right.
That there are a lot of folks who might be like, there's just something off.
Right.
And I don't know how to put my finger on it. But if I can take that courageous step towards trying to figure that out.
It's being, absolutely, it's a courageous part, and it's measuring our own or upping our resiliency to be able to reach out to someone if we're having a conflict and be the first one to ask questions so that you can understand. But you know, by taking ownership of it and using, I always say using the word I, so that you're owning it. You know, I feel there's a sense of frustration that, you know, when we're working together, what is it that I'm doing that is leading to some of the confusion, or I really want to be. The more you can use your self.
Wow. I just went into, you know, having had the benefit of a variety of jobs in different industries. I've had a variety of workplace experiences, and those that were a bit more dysfunctional, when you're describing having a conversation like that, I feel that there's some discontent or what,
yeah.
as we're having this conversation, or what is it that I'm doing? There's another part too, that just because somebody may say, well, when you do this, I feel, doesn't mean you have to blame yourself. That
No.
you can't play the blame game too. Isn't that a part of it? That, okay, we're going to discover this about ourselves in a gentle and accepting and forgiving way, as opposed to, you do that, I feel this. You know,
You have to get away from the word you.
Wow, yeah.
Because once you say the word you, defenses go up,
Yeah.
and no one's hearing anything after it. The same thing with the word but. You know, if you're saying, you know, that's a great idea, but it just discounted everything you've said before. It's a great idea you have, and I think if we do this. So it's using that little and, it's still giving ownership here. When you're starting any kind of a difficult conversation, if you can come, I'd like to have a few minutes. Can we talk sometime when you have time in your schedule? Let's compare schedules. It's checking in with the person. It's not barging into an office. It's really calming yourself down. I think earlier you said, you know, you kind of can step out for a few moments, collect your thoughts, ask the person, say, you know, I think I'm getting a little flooded right here. I'm a little overwhelmed with all this. Let me step back
And I'm not
let
sure
me come
exactly
back.
why.
Yeah.
I think that's a respect for the other person
Absolutely.
and yourself, to be able to say, you know, I'm going through some kind of a response, some kind of reaction. And when you and I were talking before the show, and to me, it's like your personal GPS. You know, something is off, and you said your emotional state is letting you know that this does not fit. Your soul is saying something is not fitting here. So to be aware of that.
That's the first key, and that's probably the first part of what I always am saying, because so many of us just get caught up in that feeling, and we want to dig our heels in and just, no, but you have to understand, you know, that we really want, and it really is letting it evolve, because once you go in and it's not changing everything all at once. It's changing it one small conversation at a time.
So, okay, two different scenarios. One, you have a nonprofit who really wants to do this together. Maybe there are 10 to 30 of them, and they would love to have this. There's complete buy-in. They want to take it on. Do they do it as a team? Do they do it in separate groups? Do they do it individually? How do they go through this process that you teach?
As the whole team.
As the whole
I mean,
team,
when
that's
you
the
have the
most
CEO,
beneficial.
the executive director, all the people that sometimes the others don't have day-to-day contact with, they get to have, if it's a morning together or whatever time it is, that they get to see each other as humans. It just really, because it's interactive. And it's a fun time of a lot of deep learning, but there's a lot of back and forth conversation that happens. And it's just really eye-opening. And that's why there's always someone who is just sitting there with their eyes or their mouth wide open and just looking at each other, or they'll start cross-talking. And there's just power in that. I can't tell you how many people come up afterwards and will tell me, or in follow-up conversations, that I can't believe how much I learned just about myself and how that was impeding that relationship over there. Or I get why she comes in and doesn't say good morning and, and needs to go in and start getting her work done right away. It raises the awareness, and for so many of us who are people type, that we're heart driven and get feelings hurt really easily, that really we tend to take it more on ourselves as opposed to others who they're not even aware.
Yeah.
It just goes beyond.
But either one of those is also being validated.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
You're being seen by your teammates.
100%.
You're being heard, you're being seen. I think it's so healthy for an organization just to take that time, because we're so busy, and nonprofits, God bless us, you, because we're not one, but God bless you, for doing
Absolutely.
everything that you do with all the hats that they wear.
Well,
and I've
and
been
it's-
in that world, and it's
Yeah.
tough.
It's the board, and it's also when they're looking at volunteers who come in. It's looking at that whole spectrum, because everyone wants to feel that they're valued and appreciated, and that their being involved matters, that their contributions are important. And that's the piece, when you can be able to show that in a very genuine and
Committed.
yeah, it's not just a, hey, thanks for being here, we appreciate it. It's really very specific and heartfelt, that it's, wow, when I saw you talking with Mrs. Jones and saw how you really made her feel comfortable, and all the different parts of it that go into a really good message that really lands differently.
You're talking about and that's about morale, about how do people feel that they are respected, treated, valued within
Absolutely.
their organization. And I've actually heard people say, okay, yes, that's very touchy-feely, but we have to get sales, or we have to, and you've been in sales, you're familiar with that industry, or we've got to get our donations up, or we've got a budget that we've got to hit. And
Right.
so how does that impact our bottom line? Can you speak to that? How does that impact
Absolutely.
your bottom line?
First of all, no matter who you are, you want to have that feel of value and respect. Different people, different levels, but basic concept. The other part is knowing who you're going to be talking to. If it's somebody who is, by paying attention to their communication styles, if they're fast talkers and they're just going and they're going a million miles a minute, sometimes their questions or something may seem like they're coming out of left of court. It's answering and not starting to have preconceived notions that this isn't going down a good path. Other people may be very systematic and very linear in their thinking and how they're asking you questions, and very slow thinkers. So some of us may tend to jump in, uncomfortable with silence, whereas they're just processing the information. And it's really starting to match who you are, how you always communicate with others, with watching the other person, knowing who they are, so that you can start mirroring a little bit and formulating your needs, or what you want them to be knowing about your nonprofit, what the information is, so that the donor feels comfortable. Because you're not going to have a donor who is very free-thinking and very wild, let's just say, with their creative ideas of, hey, this would be really cool to do, and you know that you're working in a sector that, well, we need to do this, we need to do that.
That's a great point, because it's about relationship building. It's about connecting at that heart-to-heart level with
Right.
somebody that has the same passion as you. You may be working in the nonprofit, and they may be donating to your nonprofit.
Absolutely.
But you have that same passion.
You also have people, though, who don't really care to know a lot of the bottom line part, all the different details of the grants and all the different aspects. They want to know just, give me the flat out bottom line, what's the picture, what's your goal?
What's the
You know,
data?
right. And they just want it, and they'll make a decision
But
based
in
on
that case, you're still connecting, because you're honestly listening
Right.
to what they want.
You're meeting
so that
their needs
exactly.
so that they can then meet your
So I had
needs.
said to you a few minutes ago, I was going to give you two examples. One was you've got a team that has complete buy-in and they all want to do it. What of, grammar, what about those nonprofits who may not be in that situation, but you've got one or two or three employees who really want they want this for more of a self-development, I guess, so that their experience within their workplace is better for them. Is that a possibility as well?
That's always a possibility. I mean, but generally speaking, it will be,
More
the
beneficial for the
decision
team.
makers who are going to be deciding. Although a lot of times someone will come and say, I have, this one team within our whole organization that just really is having some struggles. Is that something you can work with? And inevitably, you start working with one small team, whether it's 2, 3, 4 people, they start, wow, this was really, because when you're starting with a small team and they're all on the same page with each other, and
That's so important.
that's their functionality, then you can start working on, well, let's make some agreements with each other. You can get into the team and the partner coaching that way, which is the beauty of what I love. I bring all of it together. And in that, they're making commitments of how they're going to work together, what their individual commitments are to each other, and what agreements they can come up with.
And
because
I
that's
love
where you get the
that's the outcome. What agreements that they can work on
Absolutely.
together, and there's the fluidity in
Right.
that, and in the board, in the family, in the home. Can you believe we're at the second break? Time for the second break. But when we come back, it's time for Truth or Care. Whether you're a solo entrepreneur, running a small business, or a nonprofit, finding ways to promote and differentiate your business can be challenging, especially in the world of video messaging. In this course, I'll show you how to create 5 video styles which have proven effective for other businesses, and you've probably seen a few of them on TV crafted by major brands. But you don't have to be a Fortune 1000 company to produce these quality videos. You just need to understand their structure and how you fit into them. Throughout this course, I will teach you these 5 basic videos and how you can easily and professionally produce them yourself. Each style suits a different purpose and can be used across multiple platforms, which is essential to having real impact. Okay, are you ready? Enroll today at thephilanthropyshow.com. Welcome back to the Philanthropy Show, talking today with Ellen Nastir, and it's already time for Truth or Care. So thank you for sharing all of your very wonderful gems about self-awareness, and
Thank
just
you.
something I love, and I think that it's so beneficial for any business, nonprofit, any person, any board, any family, whatever. You've got an amazing gift in helping people towards that. So now with your vast experience that you've had with different sales and your bagel store, and I love that, now working with nonprofits in business as well, why do you work with nonprofits, and what is your heart's definition of philanthropy?
My heart definition probably is heart. It's heart to heart. It's my heart being able to reach out to others, and in seeing the impact that when you're helping people in nonprofit or any area, when you can be reaching out and helping people are hungry to connect. We have such a vast communication lag. We think we're connected because of the computer age and social media, and we want human connection to be authentic and to be real and to feel good about ourselves and who we're serving, how we're interacting with others. And there's a hunger for that. So it's helping people in uplifting people, better understanding themselves, how they relate with others. And I guess what really struck me was over about 20 years ago when I was going through a real difficult time in my life, and I was waiting in carpool line to pick up my kids, and it was when Elton John's song was on the radio from The Lion King, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? There's a stanza in there that just hit me like a ton of bricks that said, there is a time for everyone if we only learn that the twist in the kaleidoscope moves us all in turn.
Oh, that's neat.
And I just had, because when you think about it, the kaleidoscope, just one small twist, the whole picture changes. So when you're going into a nonprofit or through the Nonprofit Leadership Center, you're just opening up one small shift of a perspective that someone gets. It just opens up so much possibility and potential for them. So it's a heart-centered, there's no greater feeling to me
Oh,
in
that is
being able
cool.
to do that.
One small shift can change the dynamics in your entire relationship base.
And for yourself,
And for
because
yourself.
all of a sudden you look at everything through a different set of eyes. It's taking off the one set of glasses and putting on something else. And it builds empathy. It builds so many different skills to develop your resiliency to bounce back quicker.
That's cool.
And that just goes out, and when you think about it, the nonprofits, their teams learn it, but they're taking it out to everyone.
Absolutely.
Who they're dealing with.
The ripple effect just
It
keeps
is.
going.
And that whole part, the whole conversations can change. And if you start there, ultimately we get down to how we're working in our families, strengthening the families, and how we're talking to our children. So hopefully with the new generation coming up too, they're becoming more heart-centered.
I love listening to this woman. She's amazing to me. I have gotten such a kick
Thank
out of having
you.
you on the show. It's really broadening and opening, yourself, which is just such a treasure. Not just for the nonprofit, not just for your workplace, but for your home life, for your person, and for being who
It's
you
a nice
are.
byproduct.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
show,
you.
Ellen.
This
it
was
so
great.
to have
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank
Gosh.
you.
And with that, we're wrapping up another Philanthropy Show. But remember, keep watching Video on Demand, all the shows that are available, and we post a new show every Monday at 4 o'clock Eastern. See you next time.
Do you have an idea for the Philanthropy Show? Contact us via our website or email us at tps@myvideovoice.com.